Hey friends, hope you're doing great. Anna Sabramowicz here. Now, if you haven't been here before, this is where I talk about scenarios, e-learning, how to really design your own interactive learning episode. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today is a post that I posted on LinkedIn about last week, and I got a really fantastic comment on it. And I wanted to dig into it a little bit further because I think it will be something that you will benefit from. So here's the post. Let me just read you a little bit of that post from LinkedIn. So you may not be familiar with the 1984 film Karate Kid. Now, if you are, thumbs up. In it, the character Mr. Miyagi, who has been called film's greatest mentor, Mr. Miyagi shows us the fundamentals of great mentoring. And very importantly, we get to see the development of the teacher-learner relationship. Now, just in case you're not as old as I am and haven't seen the film, Mr. Miyagi is a martial arts teacher and master and a teacher to Daniel, the main character, who is a young boy. Now, beyond just being a karate instructor, though, Mr. Miyagi becomes a role model for Daniel and provides him with the developmental opportunities for and psychosocial support. Now, Mr. Miyagi is nurturing, fosters ethical decision-making with Daniel, and inspires his learner through his words and actions, right? And he finds a unique ways to teach Daniel lessons on work ethic and humility, and he rewards Daniel for his progress. Now, in short, he's one hell of a teacher. But what Mr. Miyagi does obviously goes much further than just delivering information and practice exercises. Mr. Miyagi and other mentors like him strive to improve the skill set of each person they're working with, and not in a cookie-cutter, one-class-fits-all fashion either. They look at each individual learner as the unique person they are and take a personal stake in helping them get better. And here's the quote from me a little later on. It says, "If we can accept as true that there is a spectrum of instruction styles with the very personal style of mentorship on one end and a droning one-size-fits-all impersonal lecture style on the other, we should at least strive to be as close as we can to a mentor," right? Which is great. Now, one of the things that one of the comments that came through, and a lot of people resonated with this, right? One of the comments that came through, which I think is really good, and there's a reason why we need to really discuss it, is this. This came from Michael. "My favorite lesson from this film is that of the learner thinking they know better than the teacher. How many times have we seen a learner come into a learning environment with the wrong attitude? Rarely does it end as well as the Karate Kid." And that's kind of the reality that we have to face. That sometimes, actually many times, the mindset of the learner that enters into our learning is not going to be optimal. They might already believe that they're the best and they don't need to learn anything new. Actually, most times I find that a lot of people have limiting beliefs. They'll believe something that is not true about themselves. Like recently, I was having during one of my cohort sessions, we were talking about sales training. And some of the limiting beliefs that people have about sales training is that they'll look at the final product of a learner, of like somebody who's, let's say, in this organization, somebody's getting an award for being a top salesperson. And they'll look at that person and they'll think, I'll never get there because that person's really talented. Or that person has had all the opportunities given to them. I don't have those opportunities. And so what happens is they combine their ideas about who they are as a person and their skill set, and they combine those into basically a belief that then influences how much action and how effective they're going to be in their training, which is kind of terrifying and scary, right? Because what happens is, regardless of how much effort you're going to put into the training that's going to basically give somebody the steps of becoming an awesome salesperson, regardless of how much support you're going to provide to that person in terms of the logistics of what it takes to get to this level, If they believe that they're not talented enough, they're not skilled enough, that's going to be a problem. So that's why an interactive learning episode, the way that you design that that experience is very important, and that's why story is so important to this process, and integrating story effectively is so important to this process. If somebody comes in to your learning and they believe that they are inherently not able to become a better salesperson, they're inherently not able to, they don't have the talent, that's a limiting belief. So what you want to do through the story that you're developing is have them recognize and have some aha moments that there is potential for them to move from this place of where they are, which is their limiting beliefs, to actually a place of success and achievement. And that's one of the things that story does for people. So in some ways, your interactive learning episode is not necessarily going to be where people learn how to become a salesperson. At the end of your module, you might not have somebody who's like a rock star. But one of the things that's going to happen is there's going to be a shift in their beliefs about what they can achieve. And once that shift is accomplished, guess what happens? If you now all of a sudden walk into the world and believe that you are a different kind of person, you're going to take different kinds of actions. You're going to take different kinds of see the world through a different lens. And actually, one of the ways, this is kind of funny because it really is exemplified, the perspective, the idea of perspective is really exemplified in that movie, the one, it's called I Feel Pretty. So in that movie, what happens is there's a girl who doesn't feel pretty. And she sees the world through that lens, that she's not attractive, and therefore she makes her decisions with this filter that she's not that way. And so all the opportunities, all the things that she goes for are always dampened by her perception of that. And then all of a sudden she hits her head. I'm giving you the movie, giving away, sorry, spoiler alert. She hits her head and has this temporary amnesia where she forgets or believes that all of a sudden she is the most beautiful woman and has all the advantages that beautiful women have. And she acts on it. And what you see is basically the development of a person, or the instant switch of a person whose beliefs have been changed. Now her lens is different. She takes different opportunities. She sees different opportunities. She interacts with people differently. And that's really what we're trying to do. So when you think about your learner coming into your learning intervention, it's not always about the quality of the information and the way you lay out the steps. That's still important. But if they believe that sales is an innate talent, if they believe that leadership is an innate talent and not a skill that they can develop, they are going to come into your training with that lens. And that is going to affect, 100% going to affect the amount of value they're going to get from that experience. So you have to create an episode that not only acknowledges where they are right now through a character, but also takes them on a journey that helps them discover that there is hope, that there is a way to overcome that challenge, and that they have the ability to succeed. That's huge. That is huge. And that's where a lot of learning misses the mark. They don't engage people through storytelling. They don't even recognize that emotions are involved when it comes to learning. And they so much are. Like, if you're not using story and emotion in the training that you're designing, you're just putting out stuff that you're hoping will stick. And it's not effective. It's just you're just putting out, like, you're just dropping brochures out there and hoping people will pick them up and they'll actually recognize the value and that they're in the mindset to learn. That's not true. So, and that's one of the things, as I just said, we discussed that during our cohorts, and it's actually really fun to be able to discuss those things freely, where nobody's going to say, story, emotion, I'm not ready for that. No, we go deep, all in, and there's no fences. We are clearing those fences, because one of the things we need to do is to create a meaningful experience. you need to have these elements. And one of the things that it really helps us to incorporate story and an interactive software development piece together, which is like you have, when you're designing an interactive experience, you actually have decision points. So the challenge is to mix a story and overlay that with decisions. How do you do that, right? So you need to have a system and a process in place, and actually a framework, to be able to take all this other noise that you have, all this information you're getting, all this content, and also all this information from experts in the field and your case studies and research, and actually put that together into something that engages as a story, but also gives your learner the agency to feel like they are driving that experience, which makes it so much more engaging for them. And these are the things that we discuss, and also these are the things that you apply during the boot camp. So my next one is happening in May. If this is something that you want to get really awesome at and really get good feedback on, because a lot of times we create things, we don't get expert feedback on what we're doing, and we flounder or we try and experiment, and that takes time. I mean, that's what I did. I did that for a decade, basically, just put stuff out and hoped to get some feedback. But sometimes you get feedback and sometimes you don't, and sometimes you get smile sheets and sometimes you get some reviews, but it's far and few in between for you to actually refine a process. So here what we're doing is a weekly basically session where you just really get feedback and application, and basically an accountability coaching partner to keep you focused on that project and get you from inception to launch systematically. So if that's something you want to explore to see if you would benefit actually from joining us, because not everybody is going to be a fit. We actually want to make sure that everybody who is everybody who joins it is focused on really challenging themselves and also breaking some old paradigms, because that's part of this, is unlearning some things that are legacy from the instructional design world, because this is a new experience for us and for our learners, and we have to do this a different way than has been done before, because it is a new way to interact and design and think about stories and think about integrating stories into learning in the best way possible to make it as engaging as possible without breaking both, right? So I'll put the link underneath the video so you can book a session with me just to talk about really discover if there are gaps that you have as far as your system or your framework, which you're doing right now, and if this is something, which we're starting on May 21st, if this is something that will actually help take you to the next level, and if you're ready for it. All right? Okay. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of the Wednesday, and if you have any questions, please post them underneath this video. And thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you tuning in, because it looks like you're interested in taking your experiences and basically designing things that you're proud of and will deliver the value that you want to deliver to your audiences. So I love that you're keen and a learner, because that's the community I'm trying to foster here. People who are really just wanting to take themselves to the next level when it comes to designing these interactive learning experiences. All right? Okay. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Ciao now. Thanks for stopping by.